As much as I love DPZ's pretty hilarious headcanon that all MERBs are atheists, and specifically the reasons for their being atheists, my headcanon is that they do in fact have a god. A god and a lot of malevolent spirits. See, in the Mermaid religion, after Atmos was created, a whole bunch of spirits also came into being. These were spirits of things like disease and monsters and all sorts of dangerous things that can cause very gruesome suffering. Anyways, the Merbian god tried to get rid of these spirits, but there was nothing that he could do. So if he couldn't help his creations, the Merbs, fend off the spirits, then he'd at least make it so that they didn't always have to be tormented by them. So he created the afterlife and would come from then on to Merbs who were suffering and take them from the living world to the afterlife, basically taking on a Thanatos-like role as a personification of death. Of course, I do have more to say about this god and the Merbian religion as a whole, but I'll just leave you off for now with this question. Can you guess what this god's name is? Here's a hint.
Doom, 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 doom. Oh, Doom, why have you forsaken me?
As you might expect, I gave the raptors in my headcanon a polytheistic religion. However, instead of simply leaving it at that, I decided that the raptors' religion is somewhat unique, shall we say. See, instead of believing that the gods made them, the raptors believe that they themselves and all the other sentient species were once gods. But then after they created Atmos, they all went to war with each other for some reason, probably trying to decide who would run this world they had created or something else to that degree. And this war between the gods, was so savage that in the end, though the raptor gods were the victors, you could say that everyone lost. Specifically, all of the gods lost their divinity, becoming the mortal species that we now know. So the raptors believe that they are gods made mortal, and that every time one of them dies, they simply reincarnate afterwards into a new body, into a new raptor, until finally they are able to regain their divinity. Now, as for how they can regain said divinity, well, I won't go into detail here, but let's just say that it explains why the raptors are sort of cannibals. Again, I'll try to explain it at a later date. Do you guys remember the tiki-headed natives from Terra Tropica? The ones who worshipped the condor and tried to kill Stork and who eventually got slaughtered by the Nightcrawlers? Oh, dark turn there. Well, perhaps not too surprisingly, they have, or rather had, a religion too. I really haven't put much thought into it, but I have decided that it was polytheistic and that all the gods were considered equals. Like, you know how in pantheons there's typically a king or queen of the gods, or gods that are more powerful than others? Well, there's no hierarchy like that in this pantheon, or at least there wasn't until an unknown amount of years prior to the series' start, when the natives included a new god into their pantheon, one who became the sole ruler of all the other deities, who supposedly came to visit the mortals in a vessel of sorts, and who I will maybe elaborate more on another time because we have one more religion to discuss. Now, you might think that what with their business of suppressing religions, the Cyclonians probably believe in my headcanon that there are no gods and that all worship of them should be wiped out, right? Well, yes and no. The Cyclonians actually do believe that there are gods in the world, but they also believe that they shouldn't be worshipped. See, the Cyclonian religion has a few elements similar to those of the Wallops and the Raptors. Their belief is that the founder of the imperial family, the first master of Cyclonia, was in fact a god, the most powerful of all the gods in fact. But he or she, I haven't decided yet, was stripped of their divinity, exiled to the mortal plane, and bound in mortal flesh. So the rulers of Cyclonia for hundreds of years have fancied themselves as gods on Atmos, rather like the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, and all other members of the empire as their worshippers. But as for the other gods, the Cyclonian religion claims that they must be wiped out, which is one of the big reasons why they try to extinguish all other religions in Atmos, as revenge for their one true god, and so that he or she, depending on who is ruling Cyclonia at the time, may claim their rightful place as the most powerful of all the gods in Atmos by being the only god in Atmos. So, yeah, Master Cyclonus as an actual god. That's a charming image. So now that we've covered the major religions in Atmos, at least according to my headcanon, you might rightly wonder what some of our favorite characters think of these religions. Which ones do they believe in? Do they believe in any of them? And what about the beliefs of Atmosians outside of the terras I talked about? What about the stories and fairy tales I mentioned toward the beginning of this video, the last surviving elements of most of Atmos' religions? Well, I'm afraid that those will all have to wait for a future video, as this has already become a two-parter, and I've learned that YouTube doesn't like multi-part videos. So I'm afraid that's all for my headcanons on Atmosian religions today, guys. Please share your thoughts and opinions, and even some of your own headcanons in the comments. I'd be really happy to read them. Once again, a huge thank you to DPZ for inspiring this video. Sorry that it's out so late. I was sick, my voice was absolute crap, and I had loads of homework. Doesn't matter, it's out late. Sorry for that, but it's here now, and thank you all for watching.